Charlie Kirk's family and supporters are facing their first Sunday church services without him today. This as public memorial service details have been released. Christina Coleman is live now with the latest. Hi, Christina.
Hi, Mike. Student supporters and national leaders from across the country, including President Donald Trump, will honor Charlie Kirk at a massive public memorial service next Sunday at State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona. And take a look at this. Here's a live look at Turning Point USA's headquarters in Phoenix, where thousands of supporters have shown up to pay tribute to Charlie Kirk, leaving flowers and lots of cards. Since his widow, Erica, spoke out about his assassination and vowed to continue his work, Turning Point USA has received at least 18,000 new chapter requests.
There's a lot of us that want to pray together and reach towards Jesus in this really painful moment.
His legacy is that we have to be courageous in our faith. We have to stand up for truth.
Erica Kirk spoke publicly for the first time since her husband's assassination Friday evening. Through tears, she expressed her deep love for him. She says he will be remembered for his courage and his faith, and described Kirk as the perfect husband and father. She also shared a very emotional moment, describing what she told her young daughter when she asked where her father was following his death.
She goes, "Where's Daddy?" What do you tell a 3-year-old? She's 3. I said, "Baby, Daddy loves you so much. Don't you worry. He's on a work trip with Jesus, so he can afford your blueberry budget."
So heartbreaking there. Also, take a look at this incredibly powerful image. You see Kirk's widow, Erica, holding up the cross necklace Charlie used to wear. Kirk's executive producer said Erica gave Charlie this necklace when they were dating, and even though he wasn't a jewelry guy, he wore it.
He put that cross on and he never took it off again until he was assassinated, and the people caring for him ripped it off as they tried to save his life, and Erica has it on her all times now.
So touching, all of this. It's just a lot to process following Kirk's assassination. Also, a prayer vigil will be held in honor of Charlie Kirk tonight at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. House Speaker Mike Johnson and a number of Trump administration officials will share remarks at this event. Mike?
Christina Coleman, thanks very much. For more on the legacy of Charlie Kirk, let's bring in Gaines for Girls host Riley Gaines, who is also a contributor to Turning Point USA. Riley, welcome.
Well, thank you very much. It's good to be on with you.
You are a young conservative. What was Charlie Kirk's impact on you as a mentor and also to the broader conservative movement?
Well, truthfully, I don't think his impact can be overstated. What he's done for the younger generation. I think, to put it pretty plainly, honestly, is Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA is what made MAGA cool again. Of course, we're living in 2025. It's a totally different political, cultural, social climate than that of 2020, and we largely have to thank people like Charlie Kirk for that. And if you would have asked him, of course, I was fortunate enough to spend personal time with him, and if you asked him what his mission was, it was to turn these first-time MAGA voters that we saw turn out overwhelmingly in support of Donald Trump back in the 2024 election in November. His mission was to turn those first-time MAGA voters, maybe 18, 19, 20-year-olds, into lifelong conservatives. And that's exactly the trajectory, of course, that he was on, and that I'm excited to see that Turning Point will continue on. It was really powerful listening to Erica Kirk and her remarks the other day speak to look, the movement will not die. To hear her say something to the effect of, this widow's battle cry will echo across the globe. I can't imagine those words having to come out of her mouth, having to describe herself as a widow, but how powerful to hear her say that. And I can tell you internally what we are seeing at Turning Point now. Donations like we've never seen before. We are seeing people inquiring about starting a chapter, both at the high school and college age level, like we've never seen before. I just got back from church, Mike, and how powerful was it to be there? I mean, there were no parking spots available. There were no empty seats. People were waiting in the lobby for the next service. Really, really powerful. And again, Erica described her husband, the father of her children, as a martyr. And that's exactly what I believe he's died as.
Charlie's courage of being willing to debate anyone, of being willing to take a question from anyone. What about that?
Well, it speaks to, number one, what he was killed for. Again, let's be very, very, very clear. The other side saw him as a threat because, I mean, think about his debate format. All he did was sit at a table and say, prove me wrong. They knew they couldn't. They knew they didn't have the words or the intellect or the knowledge or the rationale or the reasonability to prove him wrong. So what did they do? They prematurely ended his life. There's a lot of people, myself being included, I truthfully accredit myself to finding my voice to Charlie Kirk. I believe his death, again, it has inspired 10,000, if not more, Charlie Kirks across the nation to hopefully engage in the same format and debate style and intellect and critical thinking that he did, which is merely civil discourse and the truth. That's how you combat the evil that we are up against, which I don't use that word lightly. To say that this is evil, I truthfully, I mean it's really spiritual, actually. We know that's what Satan does. He distorts, he manipulates, he deceives. He is the father of lies. And how do we combat those lies? We do that with the truth, and that's exactly what Charlie Kirk did. And I imagine we will see a revival amongst young people to continue that same format.
Do you worry after he was assassinated on a college campus that other conservatives will be reluctant to go on college campuses due to security concerns?
You know, I do believe there's a level of apprehension that we will see from your everyday person, because, I mean, think about it. We've been the silent majority for a long time, and it's because we feared for things like this. Things like, retaliation, emotional blackmail, and now we have to, physically fear for our lives, our safety. We're being put in harm's way for speaking the truth. That being said, I feel more hopeful at this point than I did prior. This time, even just last week. We've seen people like Matt Walsh, Ben Shapiro, Megyn Kelly, other fantastic conservative political commentators, if you will, who have gone on to say, look, we will pick up the microphone where Charlie left it. And I think in doing that, it's giving courage to others. So Turning Point, again, has announced they will continue with the college tour. They will be at those stops. They will continue putting people on college campuses and really inserting them into the belly of the beast, which is oftentimes what these academic institutions really are, which is ironic, really. They will continue putting these people in the belly of the beast because that is where the message needs to be heard. And again, that's exactly what Charlie would want. I have to imagine, again, especially coming from, just sitting down to do this interview following church, I have to imagine that Charlie is looking down right now with the biggest smile on his face to see the revival that his death, again, his assassination, has started amongst Christians and amongst conservatives.
Riley, I know this is a special time for you, due to deliver a baby soon. God bless you and your family during this special time, and I appreciate your time today.
Thank you very much.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.